I'm a terrible person. If we could keep this space in front of this black curtain, like sound box open, sorry, if you guys could scoot, it's messing with the frequencies a little bit of the microphones. So, thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, John. Amazing person. So glad that we got to go to school together. He helped me survive. Wow, college. Anyways. All right, hi, I am Lisa Rincon. As you heard, I'm a therapist. My specialty is relationships, couples, and that really covers quite a bit of things. And I'm excited to be asked to speak today because dating is something that has been the bane of my existence for many, many, many years. I do have a confession though, and maybe we'll clear out half of this space once you hear it, so I want to be transparent. I know. Mixed reactions. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. It only took, 20-something years to get there. Well, no, actually, I'm 42. And I was married for about a year and a half. I went to BYU and I'm like, okay, oh, we're supposed to get married now. Okay, cool, let me get on that. And got right on it and got married when I was 18. And that did not last very long, but that is a whole other story for another conference. But I found myself single my senior year at BYU, which meant that I had to date. Well, I guess I didn't have to, but at the time, I really wanted to get married because goals, right? I mean, go to college, get your degree, get married, have kids, get a house, maybe get a corgi, I don't know, like whatever the goals are, right? I wanted a lot of cats. I am a cat lady, but that may or may not surprise you. So anyways, long story short, I ended up dating for literally 20 years until I found him. And guys, spoiler, right here in the front row is my hot husband. So, before getting there though, because that was a journey, I tried LDS Planet. Anyone? Oh, okay, no one. Maybe like one person's like, you're gonna know that, I'm not gonna admit it. LDS Planet, LDS Singles, Mutual, swipe right, swipe left, swipe up, down, I did it all. I tried the organic dating, and my goodness, what did that leave me with? A lot of trauma, a lot of amazing stories, and well, really what I found was that it was me-led dating. And man, I failed at it. I think there was a lot of heartache that I put myself through, and I definitely hurt some people's feelings along the way as well. The thing is, at one point, I found myself super disillusioned by, well, the church, and as if it was the church's fault that I wasn't married, as if it was the church's fault that my social skills and my anxious attachment was somehow God's fault. And I decided, you know what, Heavenly Father, I don't love the way I'm feeling. Being single, being in the church, being old, watching all of my friends have kids and get married, watching my younger siblings get married, and having a family and being alone for the holidays, going, oh wow, I gotta go to my room right now, even though it's Christmas Eve and it's 9 p.m., just because I didn't want to be in that space. And I'm not sure if any of you can relate to that, but is some pain with being single, especially when it feels like everybody around you is coupled up. Anyways, I told Heavenly Father, you know what? I'm done with your way, as if I really was doing it his way. And I decided I'm gonna date whoever I want, however I want, and do whatever I want. It didn't go very well, you guys. Really, somehow I ended up with more heartache than before, I don't know. But really, there was a lot of different events in my life that brought me back to Heavenly Father, that brought me back to His will and His gospel. And I'm forever grateful for that, because it did actually end up influencing the way that I dated, and ultimately found my way to my eternal companion. So what was it? What was it about aligning myself with Heavenly Father that made things a little bit different? Well, let's go into that. Okay. I asked a question. What if He were? What if Christ were on the apps? I can guarantee you there would not be any shirtless selfies. I almost pretty much guarantee that. I also wonder how He would swipe, what qualities He would be looking for. I wonder what qualities He would highlight. I wonder how many women would go, oh, he's kind of homeless. He doesn't have a car or a camel. Not into that, right? What's his occupation? Oh, he's like a contractor of sorts. He's self-employed. What about benefits? It just kind of makes you wonder. It made me wonder, would I swipe up? So assuming that we don't have to assume he is dating, but it's just an interesting concept to ask ourselves, because we are disciples, or at least we profess to be, striving to be disciples and followers of Christ. We consider Him to be our emulator, our counselor. Why not kind of follow His track a little bit? So let's talk about the dating scene versus the disciple scene. Now, I know all of you have an idea of what's going on in the dating scene. Yes, is that fair to say? People are on apps, can I ask? Raise your hands, apps. And then probably double that number for the people that don't want to admit it, that's fine. Because I'm sure your profiles are on there if we looked. So, the thing about dating these days, especially, I think it's gotten more and more difficult every year that we're getting closer to the millennium, but it's not finding a match that's the problem. It's not the seeking. We do escape rooms, we do puzzles on our phone. We don't mind looking for things. My goodness, thrifting is such a huge thing. We don't mind looking and hunting for things. But it's the pain that happens when you date. It's the ghosting. It's the awkward conversations that end up making you feel just gross, icky, worried that you're unliked or unpopular. It's putting down physical boundaries to protect yourself and to have them maybe pushed back on or laughed at. It's how we treat each other in this dating scene that has become the painful piece of dating. It's not fun like in the 50s where you had little bobby socks and shoes and you're dancing and getting burgers and shakes like our parents did. Maybe my parents did not do that, but we've lost the fun of it, we've lost the spirit of it, and it's because really, I think, at least in my observations, how we treat each other. So, doing a very unstructured deep dive into Reddit, blogs, and other such places, I found what tends to be the top complaints. Now, keep in mind that these complaints maybe aren't yours, and that's fine. Maybe you don't have any complaints about dating. But it's important to consider where other people are coming from, that other people have had very tender experiences, maybe very painful experiences while dating. And If that has been your experience, yeah, you're coming into this a little bit jaded, nervous, anxious, and that's completely normal. So going into struggles, the unrealistic checklist. Who went to Young Women's, or I don't know if young men did this as much. I think young men were busy blowing things up and making s'mores and like doing like really cool things. At least in my day, I can't speak, but in the 90s, that's what we were doing. But the women, we were kind of dressing up in white and thinking about our wedding day and encouraged to think about the type of man we want to marry. And that's, again, there's a place for all of that. But along the way, we've been encouraged to create a checklist, to think of who we want to connect with, who we want to match with. And society also has been creating a checklist. And I'm not going to ask for hands, but I'm wondering how many of you feel like there is an expectation, like a prime version of yourself that you need to be in order to be considered a liable, viable candidate for dating. Yeah, for sure. I felt that. And I think that is what started a lot of the painful experiences with dating, is feeling like I had to live up to this certain expectation. I remember being on a few dates with somebody and going, oh my goodness, I cannot believe this person likes me. He checks all of my boxes and la la la. And I remember him texting, of course, texted this, I don't think we're really gonna go anywhere. You're funny, you're great. Your physique isn't really where I'd like it to be though. And I'm like, okay, all right, cool. Did I go and work out after that? Oh, heck no. No, I went and doubled down and ate ice cream, cleaned out the Haagen-Dazs. Yes. It was rough. And that was just one of some. But think about that. How many experiences have you had where somebody either made an offhand comment to you or even about somebody else that stuck and made you think, oh, I've got to be that? Maybe you heard somebody go, well, I'm not going to date somebody if they fill out the blank. Oh, well, shoot, I have that. I've got to fix that. I've got to change that. So these unrealistic expectations, these whether they be superficial or not, and in addition to rigid standards. Now, I remember coming into BYU going, all right, the field is white and ready to harvest, okay? And going, wow, I need to make sure, return missionary, he's already done a couple years of college, his parents are still married. I mean, my goodness, the checklist was enormous. But to what end? To what end does all that matter? Why did I care if he served a mission? Well, because I thought it meant that he's committed to the church. Serving a mission does not mean you're committed to the church. Apparently, I didn't know this. I come from Los Angeles. My parents are converts. I didn't know that conference went on for 2 days until I got to BYU. So yeah, didn't know this. But I mean, there are some people that start their mission process because their parents encourage them financially or otherwise with different incentives. There's different reasons why people do things. So to put a checklist down of, hey, this person has to have done all these things doesn't exactly make sense. It's all about the why, but we'll get there. Anyways, another struggle, pressure to marry. Don't we all want to graduate our YSA awards? Yes, very much, right here, wants to graduate. Well, yeah, I remember going, okay, all right, it's cool. I got divorced, but you know what? I have, 9 years to get married before I turned 31 and they kicked me out. I didn't make it. I got kicked out. And I'm like, okay, I'm getting old, and there's competition. There's so many beautiful young people. I'm never gonna find a spouse. There's a lot of pressure to that. a lot of pressure. There's only so many faithful Latter-day Saints out there. How am I going to find or catch? In my head, I'm like, how am I going to catch and attract that one that fits with me? Well, I've got to be willing to bend anything about myself to make that happen. You know, we get this very big goal-oriented, which is helpful, but we lose the process, you know, just to have the outcome. Another thing that can get in the way is rigidness and perfectionism. Perfectionism, that's always a fun one. It's a sneaky thing, but in being committed to something, in trying to be whole and better and to progress, because that's what we naturally do as human beings. And that is one of the most amazing things about the church, is that there is constant progression. There's a confusion that happens with perfectionism. Well, it's got to be exactly like this. I can't take any risks. I've got to have this, and this in order. And what happens is we get blinders and we lose a lot of opportunities. So struggles, whether or not you can relate to them, these are the most common, and these may be going on in some people's minds. Now, what happens is these struggles and frustrations lead to coping, because it could be very rough to make attempts. I hear sometimes from clients, hey, I can't get a second date. I'm trying. I ask, and nobody wants to go. I go onto the apps, I made a profile that's very thoughtful, and the only messages that I get are, hey. I'm like, okay, hey. They're like, no, just hey. Like, is there a period at the end? No, just hey, lowercase. Like, all right. Yeah, that's frustrating, because, hey, again, we're progressive people. That is in our human nature to progress. What are we supposed to do with hey? There's not a lot to do with that. So then you start to cope, because we need connection. We want to be with people. We want to be married. We want to be with our best friend on a cloud and having our whole family and, you know, all the things that have been promised. And we want it now. So what happens is there's a depression, a hopelessness. When we get stuck and frustrated and there aren't answers, eventually it can get difficult to want to continue. And that leads to some of the things that are popping up here. So social atrophy. Yeah, apparently if you don't go to the gym and work out, your muscles atrophy. I found that out the hard way, but I'm like, oh, okay, if I don't go to the gym for 2 years, I can't lift what I used to lift. The same thing goes with communication. When's the last time that you put your phone down and walked somewhere? When is the last time you used the bathroom without using your phone? Maybe that's just me. Don't. It's disinfected, it's fine. Don't worry about it, okay? But really, when is the last time that you spent an hour just walking around campus, work, whatever it is, in your spare time, not going like this, and actually looking at people's faces, being able to see their eyes? Even when you do talk to somebody, have you been so used to swiping that you're going, oh, okay, I'm talking to this person, but oh, who's back over there? Okay, all right, I'm ready to go there, and then I'm ready to go there, and then I'm ready to go there. So, or maybe that's just my ADHD, but it is something that I have seen happen, is this inability to be able to sit and be present. And even if you're not on your phone, there are parts of you going on in the background going, oh my goodness, I wonder if there's something in my teeth. Oh my goodness, this person's amazing. Do you think maybe I should ask them out? No, I'm not gonna ask them out, because last time I did that. All the dialogue, and you forget what is right in front of you. Another connection killer can be the unreal expectations. Having a checklist, and in your head, going through that checklist, and the person in front of you all of a sudden didn't need a box, done, we're good. you've checked out of that interaction already because they haven't fulfilled that expectation of yours. And then pornography, it fulfills the need artificially for oxytocin. It creates, pornography is, for better or for worse, a replacement for connection. And to be honest, it's a very easy place to go. It's not an easy habit to kick, but it is an easy place to go for quick connection, for oxytocin and dopamine and all the good stuff. And you know what? Kind of low risk in a way, because you don't have to connect with another person. You don't have to risk rejection. You don't have to worry about attuning to them. It's, hey, I got what I needed. Thank you very much. Let me move on. And I know that that's a simplistic way of looking at pornography. That's a whole complicated subject, but it makes sense, is what I'm saying. Why we turn to that, why we use that as a substitute for real connection. And the problem with that is real connection becomes harder and harder and harder because you're going, oh wow, this isn't that easy. It just doesn't happen naturally. I need to really be vulnerable. And that can be a very scary thing to do. What do we do about it? So before we go and look up some advice in the scriptures, good place to look. The idea of these connection killers made me think of Ephesians 4, a little bit earlier than this verse. So verse 19, who being past feeling have given themselves over unto lasciviousness to work all uncleanness with greediness. What happens when we get past feeling? What happens when we engage in coping skills that isolate us? What happens when we numb ourselves with pornography or maybe different books that picture the perfect romantic experience? We lose the ability to feel in the present, and it builds unrealistic expectations. So, okay, we got into the depressing stuff. That's the scene. Let's change that. Let's try something different. And going into more discipleship, if you continue in the same chapter in Ephesians, okay, not the calendar. We don't need to know what I'm doing later today. One moment. Okay, so actually starting in verse 31, let all bitterness and wrath and anger and clamor and evil speaking be put away from you with all malice. Put it away. Not ignore it and push it away, but go to therapy. Talk to your friends. Make connections with family and loved ones. Serve. Take care of yourself socially. Make those connections so that when you enter into dating, you're not starving for that connection. Do the things that yourself needs to be able to feel more grounded and confident, so that dating isn't that only thing that is going to give you joy. It isn't the thing that you're chasing. And then it says, and this is where we have to act out, and be kind to one another, tenderhearted, forgiving, even as God, for Christ's sake, hath forgiven you. We're all in this, well, I'm not in this dating scene, but I was until very recently, in this scene. You're all here, all experiencing things that have been painful and difficult. Can we try and be a little bit more forgiving of each other? Can we be patient for each other? Can we strive to be able to have grace? So there's a place that we can go to be able to learn how to live in this world, but not with the world's rules. Okay, let's say it all together now.
Temple.
One person's like, the temple, yes. Yes, the temple, okay. So, and there's how many in this state now? Like 20 or 30? I mean, it's amazing, they're popping up everywhere. We are so lucky. Okay, we can go there and we can learn how to date, how to relate as a disciple. And these 5 covenants are the covenants that are made when you receive your endowment. Kind of cool. First is the law of obedience. Are we aligned? So obedience can feel like a little bit of a difficult word to some, but I like to think of obedience as, hey, God, you and me, I trust you, I like you, this gospel thing sounds really good. I am going to align myself with you by following you, by obeying your commandments. The second is the law of sacrifice. Are we willing to do hard things? Marriage, well, getting married, having a wedding, cool, a little bit of a challenge, but being married can be a challenge. I adore my husband. He is, like I said, hot, funny, all the good things, best friend. He lets me watch my trash TV and then eventually pops in with, oh, that looks interesting. Okay, yeah, I'll watch Project Runway with you, okay. And, all of that is wonderful, and he is my tormentor. And I mean that in the most loving way possible. He is a mentor. He mentors me. He shows me my blind spots. Occasionally, in our early relationship, maybe not in the best way, but in the most gentle way possible, I have learned that I have a lot of blind spots, that my anxious attachment is not his responsibility, it's mine. It's mine to figure out. If he needs space, I can learn to ask questions about that. He has taught me how to have better boundaries. He has taught me how to be more judicious with my time, with efforts. And it's, again, he is the best mentor I could ever ask for. And that comes with sacrifice. That comes with the willingness to be patient, the willingness to listen, the willingness to compromise, the willingness to wipe peanut butter off of the fridge door because, he's very adamant with the peanut butter. And I love that, but it's sacrifice. I love you. Okay. Law of the gospel. Do we have faith? Really? Do we have faith that we will be given the things that we are promised in our patriarchal blessings at the temple, with other blessings, and with direct revelation that we've received from Father in heaven? Do we have faith in those things? Or do we get scared and use that fear to push that away? Our faith and repentance part of our dating narrative. Do we mess up and go, okay, wow, that's not the direction I wanted to go in, let me try again? Or do we just go, you know what, man, this process sucks and it's been really hard, so it's fine that I messed up. It's fine that I made a decision that was against my values. Depends. What are we trying to be? What are we trying to do? The law of chastity, love the law of chastity. That's always like a really good Fifth Sunday lesson in a YSA word. So I'm not going to go into it because I know your bishoprics do a killer job with that. But the idea of the law of chastity at any stage is when we make a commitment to another person, to ourselves, to God, do our behaviors follow through with that? Or do we play around with it? Do we take that commitment seriously? And do our behaviors show the commitments that we have made? And then the last one is the law of consecration. Have we consecrated dating as something sacred? Are we looking at the other person or the possibility of another person in our lives and going, that is a sacred idea, that we are trying to get to know somebody, that we are entering somebody's personal space, their emotional space, their head space, and are we taking that as a sacred opportunity, or are we, well, maybe not. Maybe we have associated dating with something else. And again, these are the things that we're trying to do. We're not perfect at it. To this day, my gosh, I'm still not perfect at this. All of these laws go from dating into marriage, into family, and it's a process. It's part of becoming celestial. Okay, so that's the disciple scene. Now, let's talk about some important factors to getting to know ourselves. One of the biggest responsibilities that I think we have when it comes to dating is not finding the right profile or the right person. Again, back in the day, we would get into a new YSA ward and they would print us out what I like to call, and now that's very disrespectful, but it was called the ward menu. And it had, seriously, that's what it was called. And already that implies, oh, well, these are objects. These are like things I can look at. You know, what am I interested in? What do I want to order? My gosh, looking at it now, I'm like, that's kind of messed up. But anyways, word menu, right? I was focusing so much on that, on, oh, what do I want? What is, you know, what's this about? How does this match with me? Instead of me, working on me and going, okay, what's going on with me? Why do I care about the types of things I care about when it comes to dating? Why do I care about, and this I alluded to a little bit in the beginning with the serving a mission thing. Why was that such an important thing? Did it really mean what I thought it meant? Does a six-pack abs? I mean, sure, you want that, but why? And what's behind that? I'll tell you what's behind six-pack abs. Less time with me. More time at the gym. I did not work out at the time. So, well, I don't work out now, let's be honest. But yeah, we're starting to understand ourselves. And these are fair questions to ask ourselves. And there's no shame or blame or guilt or judgment as to what your answers are. But I claim today that it is really important to know yourself and to understand why you need the things that you need, know why you want the things that you want, and to own that, knowing that it can change if it needs to. So let's talk about this concept a little bit more. Who knows what internal family systems is? Parts work is another thing it's called. Yeah, I see some hands. Okay, so very basically, well, okay, who has seen Inside Out? Oh, thank you, okay. That's way helpful. So Inside Out, right? Riley is the main character, and you go into her head, and she's got like a control panel, and that's her brain, right? Think of the control panel. Think of that as something each of you has. And that is what we call, in internal family systems, we call that self, with a capital S. Self is our soul. It's our divinity. It is what connects us to, it's made of the same thing that Heavenly Father and Christ are made of. It's our divineness, really. When it comes to parts, just like Riley, if you saw the second movie, over time, she developed different parts. She started off with just 4. Anger, sadness, joy, and fear, or disgust, yeah. 5. Crap, okay, you guys are way more into, I saw each movie once, so. But then in the second movie, more parts came in, right? Anxiety and, yes, I hear it all, thank you, perfect, yes. And you can look it up if you need to, but the point is, as you guys have all progressed and experienced life and different events, you have developed other parts. They may not be aligned with those emotions specifically, like Inside Out, but hey, when I got that text message from that guy who was like, yeah, you could be a little more fit, that'd be nice, a part was, well, it came about from that. Maybe it was a part that already existed, but it was a part that said, you are not good enough the way that you are. You need to change. And that part would sometimes come into my dates with me. Loved when we went out to dinner, because that part would go, don't order something fatty because he's gonna judge you. I'm like, but I really want fettuccine. You know, like that part would come in and be the forefront of the date, not the part that's like, oh, hey, how do you feel with this person? Are you guys jiving? Oh, forget that. It was that part that was managing the process for me. So I want to ask you to do a little bit of a thought experiment, maybe to see what parts exist in you when you're dating. So first question, you guys can write this down or just kind of thoughtfully consider, what parts of you surface when you think of dating? When you think of going on dates, the process of dating, maybe even marriage, what parts do you notice that come out inside of you? Maybe it's excitement. Maybe it's fear. Maybe it's loneliness. Maybe it's disgust. Now, pick one of those parts that you identified. What does that part want? What is the job of that part? All of our parts have one thing in common, and that is they want to protect us. Even that part that's super harsh with me and going, girl, you do not want to eat that in front of that guy because he has a six-pack and you do not. So don't do it. Sounds like a really mean part, but that part is trying to protect me and help me to get what I ultimately wanted, and that was a companion. So your parts are there to help and support you. So what is that part's job when it comes to dating, even if it's a problematic part? Now, another question. What does a date or a partner give you? What is your assumption about what that person is supposed to be giving you? And I will be very honest and say there is definitely sometimes I dated for the self-esteem boost because I thought being connected to somebody meant that I somehow was more whole, more complete. Maybe it validated that I wasn't a terribly weird person, which it didn't. Does it fulfill, does having a partner or going on a date or having a boyfriend, having a girlfriend fulfill the needs of that burdened part? Or are you dating more from self? Remember self, that essence that was there in the premortal life. And then finally, and I think this is always an interesting question, do you show up to dates differently based on what part is driving the boat or driving your mind at the time? So just some things to think about. It matters very much where you're dating from. Are you dating from self or are you dating from a part? Because the decisions that you make, the way that you interact, even the way that you observe and take in the experience of the other person very much is driven by what that part is thinking, what that part needs. So let's go into maybe some tools. How can we, yes, figure yourself out. That's a little plug for dating, self-help books, get to know yourself, right? Without shame, without judgment, just go, okay, why am I doing this? I wonder why. Be curious and inquisitive. But also you want to date. So let's figure out how Christ would date. Now, first of all, is this a good profile picture?
No. Oh, yeah.
Somebody said no, somebody said yes. Right away, 10 out of 10. Why? He's holding bread. He's holding bread. And I think most women can say this, unless you're gluten-free, which I'm so sorry about that. But he's not holding up one of the fish. Guys, we don't want to see your fish. I'm so glad that you can catch them. We like bread. That's all. But what else? So what else would he do? Something to consider is boundaries. Boundaries are here to help keep sacred things sacred. They're here to help your needs get met. They're there to help other people understand how you work. How many of you have ever gone and bought a plant? Yeah, you guys lived through 2020. Most probably bought a plant at some point. When you go to the store and buy a plant, there's a little tag in the plant, right? And it tells you, okay, you need to water, I like the sun, or I don't like the sun, very little water. Like, it tells you what you need. Every plant is different and every one of you is different. Some of you need more water, some of you need more sun, some of you need less. And the thing is, we cannot love and date people based on our needs. Part of getting to know somebody is understanding their needs, how they thrive. And no, it's not for people-pleasing purposes. It's not to win them over. It's to understand there's a completely different entity that you're there with, and what a cool opportunity, what an adventure to get to know how they work and why. But all of that said, we're talking about boundaries. So Dunbar's number theory talks about how many people, according to his study of the human brain, we can only have a certain amount of acquaintances, close friends, co-workers, all these different levels of relationship because they require time, energy, and influence. Now, why is that important in dating? We'll get there. So here is like a revised version of Dunbar's number theory. And that is, if you're in the center of that bullseye, right? Notice how the different layers of relationship are further away or closer to you. So the first outer layer is exchange, those type of exchange relationships. Maybe, you go to Sodalicious and you see the same person there every time. They're an acquaintance. You have an exchange, transactional type of relationship. You don't share a whole lot, right? Well, I don't know, maybe some of you do. Now, the next layer is participation. These are people that you are working with. Maybe they're coworkers, maybe they're family home evening co-chairs, somebody you're working on a group project with in class, something like that. And then you have friendship, which is another layer where you decide, hey, I like working with you. I want to let you into my life. I'd like to connect with you a little bit more. And then finally, intimacy. Those people that you can start to be more vulnerable with and share a lot more depth and information with. Now, these boundaries and layers of relationship are important to know. God works the same way. If God is in the bullseye, right? Well, maybe you start to investigate spirituality. Maybe you start to be curious about who God is and you start to read and learn about him. But as you go through each layer, maybe in particular our church, you get baptized, you receive your endowment, you get sealed. Each layer brings you closer to God. It's practice. The way that we relate to God and connect to God is the same way that we eventually will relate to our spouse and our partner. So these boundaries are really important. Because I'm going to tell you this, if you go to Sodalicious and that person, instead of handing you a soda, runs up to you, opens your car door, gives you a huge hug and a double kiss cheek, that's broken boundaries there, right? So why are we doing that in dating? Why are we meeting a complete stranger and connecting with them either emotionally or physically in the same way that we reserve for later relationships? Okay, I realize I'm running out of time, so I want to make sure I hit two more important points. So the idea of boundaries has been laid out in the gospel. These are just some examples of Christ's living out healthy boundaries. I love how it says here in Matthew, let your communication be yay, yay, nay, nay. Yes or no. It can be that simple. You don't have to explain yourself. You're allowed to say, yes, I'm comfortable. No, I'm not comfortable. Yes, I'd like to go out again. No, I wouldn't like to go out again, but thank you. Another example of the use of boundaries is protecting what's sacred, as we mentioned, whether that's physically, emotionally, financially, all of that. And the last point, and I appreciate you guys staying over for a few minutes, is this assertive spectrum. This helps you to decide what boundaries, or if you're making boundaries, if they're appropriate. The question I get a lot in therapy is, hey, I don't want to put boundaries out because then that means I'm going to hurt somebody's feelings or they're going to think I'm mean or selfish. This can help a lot. If you're passive, if you're, well, like I was, oh, I don't care what we do. We can do anything. We can watch anything. You can drive me around for 6 hours singing country music and all of that. That's fine. That's another date, another story. Totally fine. Passive. That's other people's needs getting met. You're not in that picture. Well, what's a relationship then? If there's one person and one person's needs being considered, that's not a relationship. And the same thing with being aggressive. Being aggressive means, okay, my needs are number one. I don't care about anybody else's needs. Hey, I don't care what's going on. I want to eat this, I want to do this, I want this. Again, the other person's needs are not met. Assertiveness is what Christ taught us, to consider yourself and the other person as equally important. So we're skipping over nonviolent communication, but I'm going to say nonviolent communication by the book. It'll teach you how to speak, essentially. So sorry we ran out of time with that one. But in closing, I just want to encourage you to look into the scriptures for ways to understand how to be a disciple, how to be a friend, how to be a companion. Because the cliche is true. You're going to be, or there needs to be an element of friendship with who you marry. Life is an exciting and very full journey, and not knowing how to connect and be vulnerable and open with your companion is, well, it can feel very lonely and empty. And if you start to date from a place of authenticity, you will find that friend. You will find that companion. And probably a really, really attractive one, I'm just gonna say. So dating in the Lord's way is not about being perfect, it's about being present. Be present in the moment so that you can consider yourself and the other person, so that you know how you feel with that person. You can actually get to know who they are, how they respond, how they act. And remember, you have the perfect wingman, Christ. He knows how to do this. He knows, he isn't that wingman that's like, yeah, man, I got all like the one-liners and all of that. He is there, he has the answers to be able to guide you, to help you to consider yourself and the other person in the most tender-hearted way and in the most considerate way. So may we love ourselves, may we love one another, and thank you so much for being here.